So, your goal will be the second part. Yesterday's goal was to graph y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Today we are going to graph quadratic inequalities. But before we do quadratic inequalities, remember yesterday I told you that we're going to do some word problems first. All right. So we're going to start with example number 2. So please bear with me. Write this word problem down. Ready? A particular, I don't know why they use the word particular star is projected, that means launched up from the aerial firework at a starting height of 610 feet with an initial velocity of 88 feet per second. Okay, so it starts at this height and has a velocity. Everybody knows the initial velocity from science class, right? Initial velocity, how fast it's going at 88 feet per second. So what we're doing is we're shooting up a star, and we want to know how long will it take to reach the maximum height and how far from the ground. That's what we're looking for today. So when you read this question, what do you think you're gonna be looking for?
ABC.
Besides ABC, what is the magic word in here that you recognize?
Initial velocity.
Besides that,
Height. Maximum height.
maximum. Where is the maximum located?
5 10 feet.
Vertex. Thank you. We're looking for the vertex. Okay? Now, so the equation that you're going to need is this. This is the general form. H equals negative 16 being your gravity times t squared plus v sub 0, that stands for initial velocity, times t plus, now I'm going to use h sub 0 today instead of the c, where this h sub 0 is your initial height, and that little sub 0 means at t equals 0, so that's your initial. V sub 0 at t equals 0, the velocity, so that's your initial velocity. T is time, and h being your total height. Okay, so we're gonna, and I am gonna give you this equation on the test so that you don't have to memorize it. You just gotta know how to use it. Where v sub 0 is initial velocity, h of 0 is your initial height. Okay, so looking at this problem, what is my initial height?
610 feet.
610 feet. So this right here is h sub 0. Okay, what's my initial velocity? 88 feet. This right here is your initial velocity, because that's what it says. Initial velocity is this. Starting height is this. Okay?
You're welcome.
So now let's put the equation together. All right? So my equation then will be h is equal to negative 16t squared plus initial velocity is 88 feet per second, so 88t, plus the initial height of 610 feet. So using this equation, we are going to look for the vertex because the vertex will tell you when the maximum height will occur and what the maximum height is. So vertex, okay, gives me the time and the height. Isn't that what this does? So T stands for time and H is the height. This is the maximum height. Okay? So when you see a word problem like this, all you're doing is finding the vertex. So it shouldn't be difficult. So when you see the word maximum height, vertex. Okay? So to find the vertex, what do we do first?
Axis of symmetry.
Axis of symmetry. And before we do the axis of symmetry, what do we do?
Find your ABC.
Yeah. What does A equal?
16. Negative 16.
Negative 16. And see, look, it's a negative, so you know it's going to be upside down, right? Because it's negative. And guess what? That's what I'm looking for. Right? B is 88 and C is 610. All right, let's find our axis of symmetry, which is T equals negative B over 2A, and that T, which is your X equals, that is your axis of symmetry. That's the time. This is going to be the time you're looking for, which is your AOS. Okay? So when I plug it in, I got negative 88 over 2 times negative 16. Okay? Questions so far? So that doesn't look like a time, does it? Well, let's say, what negative and negative makes it what? Positive. 2 goes into 88 how many times?
44.
44. And then 4 goes into 16 how many times? 4 times. And 4 goes into 44 how many times? 11. So it's 11 over 4, where T is equal to 2 and 3/4. Okay? Which is 2.75 seconds. That's how long it's going to take for the star to reach the maximum height. Bless you. So there's my time is at 2.75 seconds to reach. Now we got to find the height. So just like finding the vertex, right? We take this T and we plug it in. So my height is equal to negative 16. And I'm going to leave it as a fraction. I'm going to leave it as 11 over 4 squared plus 88 times 11 over 4 plus 610. Because I have easier time working with fractions than I do with decimals. Okay? All right, now the
Do we need a
square.
calculator for this?
Nope.
No?
121 over 4. 16 when I square the top and the bottom. Right? This squared is 121. This squared is 16. Plus 4 goes into 88 22 times. 22 times 11 is 242 plus 610. Okay? What happened to my 16s here?
Kids up.
They cancel out. So I get negative 121 plus 242 plus 610. And look, isn't 121 half of 242? See? So 121, this plus that is 121 plus 610. And
731.
731 feet is the maximum height. Okay? So 731 feet at, it takes 2.75 seconds to reach the maximum height of 731 feet. That's what that means. Any questions? So all you do is problem like this. When you see the word maximum height, you're looking for the axis of symmetry and the vertex. The vertex will give you the full answer of what time and how high. Okay? Any questions?
Wait, that's the answer.
That's the
Yeah.
answer. This is how long it takes to reach the maximum height and how high. Nope, there's no graphing in this.
How much points?
Right? So it's just the first two part of the graphing. So is this difficult?
Yes.
Extremely.
Yes, because you like
I like what?
you cancel out stuff.
Yeah, and that confuses
So
me.
long.
I
Yeah.
can't,
Remember every single
I
one of
can't
those
do that.
Why not?
Doesn't.
It makes it
confusing.
confusing more.
And then you go too fast, and it doesn't make sense. What
Then
you're
tell me
doing.
to slow down. Okay?
It's still recording.
All right, next section. Now the second half is graphing inequalities. So I'm going to give you your key like I did last time.
Wait, that wasn't part 2?
That was the word problem. So here's the key. If it's greater than or less than or greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Now, if it's greater than or less than, this is going to be a dashed parabola. If it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, this is going to be solid. Okay? Now we go this way. If it's greater than, you shade above. So if my parabola looks like this is above. And if my parabola's like this is above. Okay? Now if it's less than or equal to, you shade below. So now this time if the parabola's like this again, this is below. Okay? And if parabola's upside down, this is below. Everybody understand? So now you have your key. The only difference between graphing inequality and graphing regular equations, quadratic equation, is just this part right here. So example number 3. We are going to graph y is greater than negative x squared plus 6x minus 5. Okay? Same thing. Only difference is right here. Solid or dashed.
Dashed.
Above or below?
Above.
Above. So what's my A?
Negative 1.
-1. B?
6.
C? So see this right here, -1? It's negative. So you know it's going to be upside down. And it's going to be a dashed upside down. So this is what I would do. I get a dash. And we said it's shaded above, right? So come over here and give it a little. That's what your graph should look like by the time you're done. So now you have an idea what your graph should look like, right? Upside down, dash, shade above. Okay? All right. So now same thing. You're going to do exactly the same thing again. Find your axis of symmetry. X is equal to negative b, so negative 6 over 2 times a, which is -1. So this becomes negative 6 over negative 2, which is positive 3. So there's my axis of symmetry. X equals 3. So I'm going to start my graph. And tell me if I'm going too fast. One, 2, 3. Here's 3. Here's my imaginary line that divides the parabola in half, which is my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to label that first. X equals 3. Next thing we want to do is vertex. So I'm going to find my vertex. I know my x coordinate is 3, so that goes right in there. And you find the y value. And you treat the y value like an equation. So we're going to say y equals negative x squared plus 6x minus 5. And then we're just going to plug in 3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 5. 3 squared is 9. So this is negative 9 plus 18 minus 5. And look at that. Negative 9 is half of 18. Every time.
Looks like you
Thanks.
I do, yeah.
What's negative 9 plus 18? 9. 9 minus 5. So y equals 4. So 3, 4 is my vertex. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. Vertex. And we already said it's going to be an upside down, so I'm going to put a frowny face there. Now, the last thing we're going to do is find a point and reflect. We didn't use 0 yet, so I'm going to use 0. So y equals negative 0 squared plus 6 times 0 minus 5. Zeros go away. Y equals negative 5. 0, negative 5 is my other point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's negative 5. 0. Negative 5 is here. This point is 1, 2, 3 units away from the axis of symmetry, so I gotta go 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3. Here's my reflect. And remember, we said it was a dashed, so make sure you make it a dashed parabola. And we said it's shaded above, so we're shading above. And that's how you graph inequalities.